Right, number 7 on my list is an image that I took in Bugaboo Provincial Park. Now, my friend Jeremy Jackson and I hadn't actually planned on going to the Bugaboos. We'd organized a trip to an area called Valhalla Provincial Park, but unfortunately, due to the wildfires, the park was closed all summer. So we made some last-minute changes and ended up going to the Bugaboos. Now, I've been to the Bugaboos several times in the past, mostly for climbing. It's an excellent place for rock climbing, and a couple of times for photography. But I usually go in the heart of the Bugaboos, where all the spires are. There's a large hut there that holds 50 people, and there's also a campground that's usually full. So if you want a wilderness experience, the Bugaboos is probably not the best place to go. But on this particular trip, we decided to go somewhere a little bit different. We went up to the ridge line that overlooks Cobalt Lake. So you're looking down on the lake and you're also looking across to the spires, and it's a spectacular view. So we spent 3 nights on the ridge line, and we had everything from blazing hot weather all the way to all-out blizzards. So the conditions for photography were just fantastic. So many variables and so many different conditions. It was just a really wonderful experience. Now, this particular image here was taken, we'd taken some images of some beautiful light in the morning and then walked across to the other side of the ridge line and noticed that these beams of light were being formed by all of the smoke and haze that was in the air. So it was a great opportunity to get these fantastic light beams. And now, as a color image, this black and white doesn't work so well. It's a little bit hazy looking, kind of bluish looking, but as a black and white, I think it works really well. As far as processing goes, I didn't do an awful lot to it other than darken the upper sky or the clouds and the bottom of the image, brightened up the light beams and added a bit of contrast, and I think it worked out really well. I took several images of the light beams that day, and they're all black and white, but I think out of the few that I took, this is definitely my favorite, and overall I'm really pleased with the image. Number 8 on my list is another image from the same trip in the Bugaboos, except this one the light was quite different. One of the evenings and mornings we had an all-out blizzard, and Jeremy and I had pretty much hunkered down in our tents to wait out this snowstorm. And the wind was howling, the snow was coming down quite hard, And then out of the blue, as often happens in the mountains, the snow just suddenly stopped. And I looked out the back of my tent, out the window, and sure enough, I could see a Bugaboo Spire, and it actually had a little bit of light on it. Now, if you haven't seen the videos from this trip, I highly recommend them. This was one of those spectacular times in the mountains where one moment you're in an all-out blizzard, and then about an hour later, there wasn't a cloud to be seen in the sky. It was really quite something to see. But in the meantime, as the clouds were clearing, they kept swirling and opening up little holes, and now and then you could see the spires beyond. So I set up in this spot that I'd photographed the day before, and just waited for the holes in the clouds to reveal the peaks beyond. And this image here was one of a series of images that I took where there was some great separation between the foreground, the middle ground, and the background, and where you can see Bugaboo Spire with a hint of blue in the distance. So it really represents that moment where, you know, one minute you're kind of hunkered down in your tent, and the next minute it's just glorious sunshine. And I mean, the contrast in the weather was just incredible. Pick number 9 is an image from Tonquin Valley in Jasper National Park. Now, I can't take full credit for this photograph because the composition or the area where this image was taken was actually a discovery by one of my participants in a photography workshop that I was conducting in the area. Francis Roy Moreau found this little spot here, and I kind of set up next to him with another participant. So there was 3 of us that kind of got more or less the same kind of composition. Now, I took several images that afternoon that I really like, but I think this is probably my favorite from that evening. The light and the conditions were just fantastic. However, it did take us a couple of days of waiting around before we did get good light in this spot. Now, it's funny, in 2017, one of my favorite images from that year was taken more or less in the exact same spot, looking towards the same mountains. Totally different image, but it is a very special place because you get a 360-degree angle of view of the mountains surrounding, so you can take images there in the morning and the evening. Now, I do run a photography workshop to Tonquin Valley. Unfortunately, 2019 is already sold out, but I am thinking of putting together another workshop to the same area if there's enough interest. So if you are interested, I'll leave a link down below to my website. You can go and check out the workshop, and if you are interested, be sure to get in touch with me, and perhaps I'll put another workshop together because it is a very special place. Access to the location is either by hiking or horseback. There is no other way. So that's kind of what keeps people away, I guess. But if you don't mind riding on a horse or hiking 20 kilometers, then you'll definitely be rewarded. It's a super special place. I've been there a number of times now, and every time I go there, I'm just blown away by the scenery. pick number 10 for 2018 is a more recent image. It's one that I took at Stocking Creek, which is on Vancouver Island, not far from the little town of Ladysmith. Now, when I took this, I was actually in a bit of a photography slump. It wasn't until I got down to the waterfall when the light started to kind of interplay with the trees and the mist that I started to get quite excited about this little spot here. I'd been here once before, but I hadn't really got anything from the location. But the light was definitely the key to this image on that day. Now, for this particular image, I did have to use 3 separate images and kind of paint them together because I was getting a lot of lens flare and a lot of moisture on the front of my lens, so it was a little bit tricky that way. And it grieves me to say, but I did have to clone out my backpack from the photograph as well. Because the sun was shining in my eyes, I couldn't see my pack in the background, and it wasn't until someone on YouTube actually pointed it out that I I didn't notice it. I just thought it was a rock. So lesson learned there. Good idea to check the edges of your frame to make sure there's no objects protruding in there that you don't want in there. But I really do like this photograph. It has a really great mood to it, and the light was definitely in my favor that day. Okay, I was going to keep this list down to 10 photographs, but I've decided to include 2 more very recent images. I really do like these photographs, so I decided to include them. The first one is the little island that I photographed out at Gordon Bay, not far from Cowichan Lake. What I really like about this photograph is the simplicity, the tonality, and also the effect from the 10-stop ND filter. It was very foggy that morning and the fog was moving around, so it's created this beautiful, surreal kind of dreamy effect in the water and in the fog behind the trees here. It's very graphic and very simple, and that's the key to a lot of good photography, is to keep it simple and keep your message clear. And this last photograph is one that I also took at Gordon Bay, and that's the sword ferns rimmed with frost. I just love the textures in these fern fronds here and the graphic nature of them all sweeping towards this pattern to the left side where they're all kind of interwoven. Graphically, I really enjoy this photograph. Now, it works well both as a color image and a black and white, but I think I slightly prefer the black and white, so that's the one that I've included here. Now, if you'd like to see the video of me taking any of these images, I'll leave a link down below in the description. So if there's an image that you quite enjoy and you want to see the trip that I went on where I took that photograph, just follow the link. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of it. As always, thank you ever so much for a great 2018. I'm really looking forward to 2019. So Happy New Year, everybody. And I wish you all the best for the new year. All right, until next time, I'll catch you later. Bye.